Hi, everyone. For those that missed class either Monday or Tuesday, this is going to catch you up on what we did. So first things first, we had a do now that I actually do want those who missed class to do. So I want you to check your grade because you will have your first grade in there, which is your LT0, your professionalism. So you're going to look at what grade you got, and then you're going to do a reflection on it. Okay, so to go over the rubric for LT0, I was mainly grading you on deadlines, and specifically the deadlines of these two items, which is submitting assignments on time. So it's turning in your virtual notebooks on time, turning in your annotations, and then also communicating your needs ahead of time. So for those of you, there were a lot, which was awesome, I loved seeing this. There's a lot of you that would text me, message me on Discord, email me that they're having a hard time. They need a little bit more of an extension on their homework, or they couldn't make it to class because Wi-Fi was out, any of those number of things. Y'all were awesome at telling me ahead of time. And that to me demonstrates mastery and professionalism. So for your reflection, so you can, once you've seen your grade, you've gone to this website here. Do not use the app because I think sometimes the app doesn't work. But once you've gone here and you've checked your grade, I want you to go to under classwork. And I'm using third periods right now, but fifth and seventh, yours should look similar. When you go to classwork, underneath grades and learning targets, you'll find this LT reflection and tracker. Each of you should have one. So I want you to open that up and you'll see here space for your first reflections. So I want you to go ahead and fill out this right here in your LT0. So I've just evaluated you on your first, for your first time for LT0. And so based on that grade, not sure what you get, say you got a 3, all right? Which means you are proficient, right? You've met 60% of the deadlines that I've assigned, proficient. And then you would go down and you would answer, why do you think I received this grade? So maybe you received this, I received this grade because I missed a few deadlines, such as turning in my science notebook on time, or I missed class 3 times. Okay, and then for here, you're gonna write your next step. So what can I do to maintain or improve my grade? You're gonna write like 3 sentences at the very least. So maybe you could write something along the lines of, I will check the biology calendar every time I miss class, and write and watch the YouTube video, or I will tell Ms. Howe when I am stuck on an assignment and go to office hours to get help, right? I want you to be specific, right? So to summarize, so you're gonna check your assignments, you're gonna fill out just this column right here on what you got for your first assessment. And so your final score is also going to be, if you got a 2 here, you would have gotten a 2 here as well in Aries, but that'll change when we do our second assessment, right? If you get like a 3 or a 4 in your second assessment, then your final grade will be a 3 or a 4. And then when we do a final assessment, that will be your final grade. All right, so go ahead and pause and do that. And when you're done, you can come back to this video. Oh, and you should turn in the document when you're done. Okay, now we can pause. All right, so my announcements, obviously the small groups each day, but you might have missed that. But the important one is that there's no school next Monday before it's Labor Day. So I'll remind us again on Thursday and Friday. that we have no school on Monday. Okay, so now this is the part where we revisit our homework, which was working on the claim and evidence for the COVID, for the teenager that got COVID. And so I realized I did a huge disservice to you guys last week where I assigned this homework and I just assumed that y'all knew what adult symptoms were for COVID. So that is my bad. I am so sorry about that. So I want to go over the adult symptoms for this. And I got them from the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control. So it's like a fact-checked source. So the symptoms are fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle, body aches, headaches, new loss. So losing your sense of smell or taste, sore throat, congested or runny nose, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. So all very fun symptoms, but these are what adults would get. Okay, so your CER was based on, do teenagers get these symptoms as well, or do they get different symptoms? So do they get fevers but something else? Okay, so to revisit our claim and evidence, our learning target 1, you have to meet all 3 of these requirements to get a 4. So you should create a claim, be able to cite 3 pieces of strong evidence, and then having all of your evidence come from fact-checked sources. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through a claim and evidence example that I received, and then we will do like a peer review. So we'll review this and kind of give them some like positives and negatives about their claim and evidence. Okay, so let's first read it. So this person, remember the research question is, do teens have the same COVID symptoms as adults? And the claim that they wrote is, no, they do not. Cool, that is a claim, is that no, they do not. Evidence, their first piece of evidence is Jeff gets a rash, and that is not an adult COVID symptom. Cool. So evidence number 2 says that 2 other kids also showed the same symptoms as Jack did. At first, they tested negative, but in the second test, the results came out positive. It said that their immune system were fighting the coronavirus in their body. Apparently, their immune system couldn't fight it anymore, and it caused these kids to react in a specific way. Okay, that's evidence number 2 that supports the claim, no, they do not get the same symptoms as adults. So evidence number 3 is that he beat COVID and he did not die and he was young and he did not have the same symptoms as olders. All right, so we've just read this together and we'll go over and evaluate in a second, but I want to show you this table, and this table is what I want you to evaluate your CER with. So there's different criterias. All right, so as you go through each criteria, I want you to write down what are some areas of concern that you see in your CER. What are some really good and dope like things that you did in your CER with criteria 1? And then what about criteria 2? What were some concerns and what was some awesome things you did? Same with 3 and 4. Okay, so let's go through this example real quick and then we'll open our notebooks and I'll tell you how you're going to do this on your own. So criteria number 1 says that the claim is 1 to 2 sentences that restates the question. So the claim they wrote is no, they do not. So I would write, if I was peer editing, if this was my partner's CE and I was peer editing them, I would say that a concern was that claim does not restate the question because it just says no, they do not. If they restated the question, it would say no, teens do not have the same COVID symptoms as adults. The feedback I would give that is that it is correct. The claim should be no. So you're correct there. Awesome. So then we move on to criteria 2. Evidence supports claim, not just a random fact. So evidence 1 says Jeff gets a rash and that is not an adult COVID symptom. Amazing. Yes. So evidence, it does support because teenagers got a rash, which is not an adult symptom, that supports that teens don't get the same symptoms as adults. However, I think that I would write, so evidence number 1 is strong. So my however comes from the fact that evidence number 1 does not state the correct name. It's Jack, not Jeff. So evidence 2 talks about how 2 other kids showed the same symptoms as Jack, and how they first tested negative and then they tested positive. However, I don't think that evidence 2 really supports that teens have the same symptoms as do not have the same symptoms as adults, because it only states that Jack had the same symptoms as other kids. But what if those symptoms were the same as adults, right? It doesn't really support the claim. So evidence does not support the claim. Evidence number 2, it just feels like a random fact that was in the podcast, an important fact, but it doesn't necessarily support the claim. However, what I think is a really dope thing that this student did was that even though I told you that you didn't have to find reasoning, they wrote reasoning into their evidence. And I think that is super cool. So I'm just going to write that evidence number 2 includes reasoning, which is dope because it says apparently their immune systems couldn't fight it anymore and it caused these kids to react a specific way. That is the biological reason why the kids had different symptoms. And she totally named that reasoning, which is awesome. So evidence number 3, we move on to evidence number 3. He beat COVID and he did not die. He was young and he did not have the same symptoms as olders. So evidence 3 to me feels like it's restating the claim, but with just like a little bit more information instead of supporting the claim. So evidence, I would say that evidence number 2 and number 3 does not support the claim. All right. So then we move on to evidence number 3. Evidence number 3 is from a fact-checked source, and that would be true because all of this information came from the New York Times, and the New York Times is definitely a fact-checked source. So criteria number 4 is that sentences are complete and direct. And so I would say that evidence number 1 is an awesome sentence. It's to the point. Jeff gets a rash, and that is not an adult COVID symptom. That is so concise and to the point. So I write evidence 1's awesome. I would say that evidence 2 includes a lot of information, and not all of it is super relevant. So that it's not as direct, but it is complete, but it's not super direct. Evidence number 3, I would say falls in a similar category because it says he beat COVID, he did not die, and he was young, and he did not have the same symptoms as older people. So he said, and this person said, and like 3 times, they included a lot of random information. So I would say number 3 and number 2 includes a lot of info, but not all relevant. Okay, so that's how I would give feedback to this person through these different categories. So what I want you to do is, this is the complicated part, but I'm sure that you can get it. So basically you go to your science notebook for week 3, and you are going to open up the science notebook. You are going to copy and paste. First, you're going to find the page that your homework was on, and then you're going to copy and paste all of your work into your 1 second. Into your week 4 science notebook. And the reason I want you to do that is because I want you to copy and paste it into here and then revise it. So you're gonna go to the slide on COVID's impact on teens, copy and paste each of these into your week 4, right? And then you're going to revise it from here. So you're gonna copy and paste it all in here, and then you're gonna go through each criteria, and you're gonna write in your concerns and your feedback. And because we're not doing this in class, you can disregard all of this partner A, partner B stuff. You're just gonna fill in your revisions, and then you're gonna go back here and apply those revisions here. So maybe you would delete your claim and write yes, and then complete the full sentence. Teens do have the same COVID symptoms as adults. So you would just revise it here. So this would be your final draft after revision. Okay. So if you've already finished your COVID claim and evidence, which hopefully you already did because that was due for homework, you're just going to copy and paste your COVID claim and evidence from week 3 into your slide 4 of week 4. All right. From there, you're going to peer review. I guess you're not going to do it with a partner because you don't have a partner. And then you're going to revise your slide number 4. Okay. If you didn't do the homework, you should listen to the podcast, complete the claim and evidence on slide number 4, and then finish also slide number 5, which is that peer review table, and then go back and edit slide number 4. So you're just gonna do it on your own. Okay. All right. So your homework for this session is just to revise your COVID claim and evidence from so that I can grade it, and then I'm going to assess it as your first Learning Target 1 assessment, and it'll go into Aries and affect your grade. So this is due Wednesday at 3 p.m. However, if you can't get it in by 3 p.m., you should submit it and then unsubmit it, because then Google Classroom will keep track of that, so I can see that you did it and mark you present for attendance. But then if you unsubmit it, make sure you resubmit it again by midnight at night. So if you can't do it by 3, just hit submit and unsubmit. But just make sure that you do finally submit it again by midnight. All right. And that is it. Everything is due Wednesday. Office hours is at the same time, 2:30 to 3:15. I will be sitting in the Discord. And I will talk to you later.